Hey guys, seems like a lot of people are still having problems with my very good friend Nelson. So I want to show you another way to beat him using my current favourite opening as white. So I selected a random game, it put me in as white, and here we go, start with e4, e5, and now I play the Vienna game with knight to c3. Now you see what Nelson loves to do is he loves to bring his queen out straight away to here. Okay. Now, if you play the Vienna with knight to c3 on the second move, when Nelson brings out his queen, this pawn here is protected, right? This is like the wayward queen attack. He's counting on somebody playing just something like knight to f3 to hit the queen, but then queen takes the pawn with check and stuff like that. But if you play knight to c3 on move 2, he can't do that. So I can now play knight to f3 quite happily, kick the queen, and the queen has to retreat. Okay, so let me show you how the game goes. But I think this is a really, really solid opening if you're playing as white against Nelson. So then I bring my knight into d5. This is a very, very common move in the Vienna. So I'm hitting the queen and I'm also hitting c7. And if I get that, it comes with this fork. So the queen actually has to retreat. She's actually got two squares that she can go to, either d6 or d8. In this instance, Nelson goes to d6. That's fine, I develop a bishop. Now he kicks my knight, knight retreats to c3. Natural square, controlling the centre, all's well. Hits the bishop again. Now Nelson loves to be on the front foot, loves to attack, but will be prone to pushing lots of pawns forward. And when he pushes lots of pawns forward, he's going to weaken his structure. Okay, so the bishop just retreats to b3. Very comfortable position so far. Knight to a6 because Nelson's already pushed this pawn, so it can't go to c6. And now I simply castle. Knight comes in to attack the bishop. I'm unconcerned. I push d3 to release my dark squared bishop. If he wants to capture this, I'll simply recapture with the a pawn. He doesn't do that straight away. He pushes another pawn because it's Nelson. Okay, so I just reroute my knight round to here. I figure, you know, knight to g3 is very, very solid. Having these knights next to each other covers a whole bunch of squares. And now he captures my bishop, no problem, I retake with the pawn. Now he thinks it might be time to start developing his own pieces. So I bring out my dark squared bishop to a handy square. I've now got two attackers, you'll see, on the a7 square. Nelson does not defend against that, but he brings out his light squared bishop to b7. So I go in and capture with the rook, and we have an exchange of rooks. Okay, so I'm a pawn up. Nothing wrong with this picture. Now he kind of makes plans to maybe trap in my bishop. So I just move my knight around to g3, queen comes around, and I defend my bishop with my queen. So this bishop is a light squared bishop, it can't bother my bishop. If this bishop attacks it, we can just swap off, that's no problem at all. My queen can defend the bishop against his queen, and the only other pieces that could really cause that bishop any problem, being slightly trapped there, are the knight and the rook. But because he doesn't bother to develop his pieces, the knight and the rook are not yet engaged in the game. So we have another pawn push to f6. I bring in my knight to a nice little square here, attacking this pawn, and that would come with check, force the king to move. He kicks my knight away. I decide that putting my knight here with check, yeah, it would make the king move, but then where's my knight going to go from this square, right? Can't go here, can't go there because of the pawn, can't go there because of the pawn. So my knight could be trapped, no point in that. So queen moves forwards, because I guess I've got a threat here of putting my knight on there with a fork against queen and bishop. So queen moves, and now I bring up my queen, where it's defended by this doubled pawn on b3, and propose a trade of queens. Nelson goes for the trade of queens. I undouble my pawns. Bishop comes there to attack the pawn, and I just start pushing it up the board. He pushes a pawn, I push c3. There's no point doubling up again there. I've got a slight advantage already in the game. I've got an extra minor piece, and have I? No, I haven't. I've got an extra pawn, and I've got a mobile rook, and he's got two pieces still not involved in the game. Bishop attacks. I propose a trade of bishops. h6. I now bring my knight in, eyeing up this square, lovely little square there. Pawn pushes, I capture, he captures back. I retreat my knight. I mean, there is a free pawn here actually, but I just bring my knight back. Another pawn push. He loves to push his pawns. Now we would just swap off dark squared bishops. I kick his light squared bishop, grab another pawn, remaneuver my knight. My knight's actually trapped here on the edge. For as long as his knight stays here, my knight can't actually proceed up the board, and also this square is covered by the pawn. But this isn't too much trouble. I just go around grabbing up more pawns. He pushes another pawn. I push b4. See how my pawns are actually kind of working together, whereas he's just thrown his into the board with no regard for coordination. Push again. He's only got a light square bishop on the board, so having all my pawns on light squares just makes a blockade that his bishop can't get through. We have another pawn push, just for good measure, and I simply grab his bishop. Right? It's like all the other bots, he seems to be programmed to make the occasional complete blunder. Rook attacks knight, knight moves back round, and rook attacks pawn. I'm not too concerned about that, I just push a pawn forward and retreat my knight. So I give up that pawn, grab that one, and now it's time just to push the a pawn up the board. Knight is pretty much forced to capture. I recapture, so now I'm 2 knights in front, and the rest of the game is just straightforward now. All I need to do is swap off the rooks, and it's a walk-in, really. So I give check, capture pawn, swap off rooks, and now there's nothing to be done. Right now my most powerful piece on the board is my king, so I want to get my king in opposition to his king. That means they're 2 squares apart on the same line. His king moves up, my king moves up. His king moves away, I move in my knight to attack the pawn, grab the pawn, and now this is just a walk-in. You go, we've got 1 queen, check, and get another queen, 1, 2, all done. Okay, so think about that. The Vienna game against Nelson. Very good idea, great way to start if you're white. If you are still having problems with this annoying, obnoxious bot, let me know. Put in the comments, you know, if you're black, what does he play against you? Because he really is very beatable, because he does make the blunders as long as you don't make them first. But being able to deal with the initial kind of onslaught that he throws at you really is the key to beating this particular bot. So there you go. Just thought I'd throw in a quick Nelson video, because he obviously has lots of I can't say fans, because he's probably the most reviled and despised bot on chess.com, but there you go. He can be beaten. If you get the white pieces, try the Vienna. It should work. Alright, thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed to Chess Bootcamp, and I'll see you soon.